Dr. Horton, there is a famous story of the Pope putting Anselm into a room of Eastern theologians and making him defend the Filioque. So this, out of this comes his book on the Holy Spirit. What's his strongest argument against the Filioque?
For those who don't know, the Filioque is the addition to the Nicene Creed. We have to acknowledge that the Western Church unilaterally altered the Nicene Constantinopolitan Creed and added the phrase, and from the Son. The Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son. And that was a huge sticking point between the East and the West. It started to be one of the major reasons that led finally towards the schism between the East and the West. In the 11th century, when Anselm was a little kid, Pope Leo IX sent a messenger and placed articles of excommunication on the altar in the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul. And the patriarch, the next week, did reciprocal tariffs, excommunicated the Pope, and it's been that way. It was that way ever throughout the Middle Ages. So anyway, we could talk for a long time about what is at stake here for the Eastern Church. What is at stake is the one source of the Godhead. Is the Father the source of the Godhead, or is the essence? Is there some essence that is the source of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit? Now that's Eastern Orthodox polemic. It's sort of the way they put it. The concern of the West was against Arianism. The concern of the East, to oversimplify, was modalism. The thing that they were the most afraid of in the East was stressing the unity of God to the point where you didn't really have persons, distinct persons. And then the problem that the Western Church was facing was a new growth of Arianism, especially in Spain. And so they added, and from the Son, because if the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son, then the Son has a more robust kind of place in the Trinity. And then, once the Pope started using that version in Rome, it was the cause of great dissatisfaction. I personally would wish that the Filioque were not in the Creed. I wish that we hadn't added that to the Creed, but I also agree with there were early Eastern fathers who said that the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father through the Son, which is, as we've been hearing, the normal talk of processions and missions in the Scriptures. From the Father in the Son by the Spirit, from the Father through the Son by the Spirit. So that's the kind of language I wish that we had. The Holy Spirit who proceeds from the Father through the Son, rather than the Father and the Son, because there aren't two principles in the Godhead. So I'm a little, but I would say Anselm, I love Anselm. You always have to say. Some of my best friends are Anselm. But this is not his best argument in my view. He's kind of thrown into it. And I think that it's self-contradictory, and it has some of the problems that the Greek church recognized as problems. If you really want to see, I think, a great attempt to bring the Eastern and Western emphases together, it's in Calvin's Institutes, as well as other places. But briefly, Calvin tries to explain how the Eastern and Western views can be harmonized, what we should let go of, like Augustine's analogy of a psychological analogy of will, intellect, and memory. Thank you. Yeah. Calvin says that's a good example of why analogies for the Trinity are bad. But anyway, I think this is where, I don't know, we're going a little into the weeds, but part of this is, it shows that the church, they didn't get together at the Radisson in 325 and say, let's come up with the most complicated dogma to dazzle centuries of people in our churches. This really emerged out of crisis and debate and terms that, what can we, in the West, we used the term persona, and the Greeks said, well, persona means like actors on a stage. That's modalism. But you also can't use you can't use terms that would lead to subordination. Anyway, what is the language? There were a lot of people who we would consider today heretics who were just looking for the right way of saying it. And I think to see that the East and the West struggling over these things is not difficult to understand, and it's an ongoing conversation.
Can I put in a good word for the Filioque that I'm sure we agree with? Yeah. And I'm probably saying it right. I say Filioque because I think of the Michael Jackson Smooth Criminal song. Eddie, are you okay? Are you? So I just think it's Filioque. Okay, so now you
want to bust a move for us?
No, that's as much moves as Presbyterians are allowed. But I think, and you're more of an expert than I am for sure, but I think we would probably say what the East wanted to protect, they were right to want to protect. Yeah. And what the West wanted to protect against Arianism was right to want to protect. I think we'd also agree, not a good look with the First Ecumenical Council to add something on your own. On the other hand, historically, it seems likely that they didn't know that they were adding something new, meaning in the West, they're not experts in Greek anymore, and likely using formulas and creeds as they have them, thinking that, this is a Nicene Creed. So it's not to let them off the hook, but to say, they probably didn't think, hey, we just added something to the creed. But I think theologically, just to put a good word for the Filioque clause, is it does help us understand that there is a relation between the Son and the Spirit. So, an objection without it might be, well, how do you have the Son and the Spirit in relation to each other? They both have a procession from the Father, and then, to put it crassly, the Son's here and the Spirit's here, and they both, are generated from the Father, and what's the connecting line between the two of them? And so I think, yes, the through the Son language is probably more helpful, but I'm perfectly happy to say the and in seeing that part of the strength is it shows, and reflecting perhaps in eternity, ad intra, what we see, that the Holy Spirit is the gift. The Son says, wait for the gift that's coming. It is a gift of the Father, but it's also the Spirit of Christ who is manifesting the presence of Christ in the world. And if that has some, eternal sending kind of language, so that's my brief defense, and I'm sure you, I think, agree with all that too.